County. My name is Shannon Smith, and I think I've already talked to you. I'm the district manager in Ottawa County, and this is a 3-county workshop. Dickinson, Cindy was not able to be here today, but Jessica Beckham from Clay Center is here as well, and so we work together. And then we have Nick Denner, yes, and he's helping with the question and answer panel. He maybe can tell a little bit more about himself when he does that during lunch. So we have 3 speakers today. We generally like to do, most of our things are soil health related. We were able to get a grant from ADM, and the stipulations were multi-county and soil health related. Well, of course, we're excited about that. And so we wanted to do something a little different with livestock. Most people know cattle and do that around here, but we wanted to do, pasture pork, pasture poultry, and then also sheep, and just give a little more information and maybe interested in it. We are recording these sessions, and so they will be on our YouTube channel, so we can share with people that aren't here. And so our first speaker is going to be Tyrel Owens with Grazing, and each speaker is going to kind of tell about themselves when they start. So I'm going to let Tyrel kind of give this overview, and let's welcome Tyrel.
Yeah. So the ones of you who aren't speakers, you're going to have to write down lots of questions. You're carrying the weight. So, as Shannon said, yes, my name is Tyrel Owens. Double O Grazing Company. So I'm kind of a social media junkie. I like to share what we do, just because I have gleaned a lot from other people sharing what they do. So I basically just we came up with this when we were running sheep as a way to post all of our stuff on Facebook. So we'll get into that. Full transparency, I do not have sheep anymore. Life happened, life changes. That's one good thing about our setup was the only thing we were really invested in was the sheep. So it wasn't the end of the world. It sucked. I really did enjoy my sheep. But like I said, life happens. So anybody in here, how many of you have sheep? Okay, how many of you are thinking about getting sheep? Okay, if you're just thinking and you're not serious yet, this is what I'd recommend you get to start with, is Story's Guide to Raising Sheep. If you do end up getting sheep, I would personally recommend making the investment in the Sheep Production Handbook. I'm sure there's another volume out. This bad boy is like $180, but every year I'd look into here because there'd be some freak thing going on with a lamb or a ewe acting weird, and I'd go into the disease section or whatever, and I'd start digging into it. Because in Kansas, there's not a whole lot of support for the sheep industry as far as vets. There's just not a lot of support. So you're kind of on your own, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit. Maybe. Come on. What's it? There we go. Okay, so this is our context. When we had the sheep, we were at right around 100 acres total, but of what I had actual control of was about 50 acres for grazing the sheep on. Said all rented land. I didn't. We still don't own anything, and so you'll kind of understand how we went about stuff. We did both. Me and my wife still both work full-time jobs, so take that into account. Sheep do not have to be time-consuming, but managing them is time-consuming, and I'll explain that as we go. Why do you want sheep? That's the first thing you got to ask yourself is why do you want sheep? Myself, I wanted sheep because I worked in a feedlot for 20 years, and the last thing I wanted to do when I got off work was go and deal with stupid cattle. So, there's something about sheep. They're unique. They're different. What's your resource? As in, are you all native range? Are you cropland? Are you wooded? All that will affect how you, if you want sheep, one, and how you manage your sheep. What's your experience? If you have experience with cattle, getting sheep is not that intimidating. They are different. They're not just cattle, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Now, if you have no experience with a ruminant animal, power to you, because I cannot imagine trying to jump into any kind of ruminant animal to do that. What kind of time do you have? Like I said, I spent my time moving fence. That's what my time was moving fence. My time was not dealing with, was not worming sheep, was not shearing sheep. It was moving the fence, and that took care of a lot of our uh, management concerns. And then you got to enjoy sheep. If you don't enjoy sheep, don't get them. Trust me, I could. There were days, there were things that happened where I looked like a madman because I was so red faced and pissed and cussing up a storm. But you'll see some pictures. I really did enjoy them overall, and that's what it takes. Is you got to enjoy them. So, in my context, in my understanding, we never grazed 100% grazed year round without any supplement. But my figure was if you could have 1.7 acres, that's what it take per ewe. And when I'm saying per ewe, I'm including her lambs with her, because as those lambs get bigger, they're going to grow and they're going to consume more. Um, and you have to think a ruminant animal grazes with 5 mouths. They got 1 mouth and 4 hooves. If they step on a plant, you don't want them eating that plant because they've soiled it, because they probably got manure on it. So you want to leave it. So you only want them to eat what's still standing, basically. Um, so when we started out, first time that we got sheep, I was at Soil Health U, and this guy will come up, Nick Voss. I blame him for everything. He was giving a presentation about, or he was talking on a panel about grazing sheep and cover crops. It's like, well, why the hell did I never think of that? Because I'd been wanting sheep for a while, hadn't got them because just our setup, the amount of area that it takes to run sheep on native pasture is more than it was on cropland. And he was doing it on cropland, and the numbers, his stocking rates was, holy cow, I can make this work. But we started off with wool sheep, and because I was desperate to buy sheep, listened to Nick Voss speak, I knew there were some sheep for sale to the north of us, went up in the stands, called the banker, called the guy that had the sheep. 2 weeks later, we came home with sheep. They were set to lamb in March. So we were feeding them. I figured after about a month of feeding them, we're not going to make any money out of this damn thing. So if you got to feed them, because I was feeding them, I had access to some silage at the feedlot. I was doing a grain mix from the feed store. If you got to feed them, you got to purchase that kind of feed. You're not. I can't figure out how to make money at it. Like I said, we were lambing in March. They were scanned for singles and twins. So I was having them in different groups as we got closer and as they lambed. As far as twins were getting more feed, ones who had lambed were getting a certain amount of feed. I was managing them. It still sucked. Lambing in March sucks. After that, we went to lambing in end of April, 1st of May. Never had a problem overall with that. Twins is the name of the game. I should get into that a little bit more on the next slide, maybe. But the advantage with sheep over cattle, sheep will lamb at a year of age. Actually, sheep can lamb at 9 months of age if it's the right breed of sheep. So that's a whole different ball game than cattle, where you're having to sit out 2 years. So basically, twins, like I said, twins is the name of the game. So ideally, you want you to have 1 lamb to sell and 1 lamb to replace her. That's the name of the game. That's how you make money in sheep, is with twins. And so we were running hair sheep. We did not run wool sheep. Again, we're not in the area to run wool sheep. I have nothing against wool sheep. I wear wool socks. I wear wool underwear. I love wool. I do not like wool sheep. So, again, managing the forage so you don't have to manage the sheep. I didn't mess with worming unless we absolutely had to try and save one to get rid of her. I didn't screw around with trimming feet unless it was just to keep her in the herd because she was a factory, but I did not keep females back from her. I didn't like to feed them. If we did feed them, it was minimal. We were not giving them high quality hay. I tried to keep them on high quality forage as much of the year as possible because I want them in good condition. And you'll see that when we start getting into some pictures. And flock dynamics. You will have a matron ewe. There will be a ewe who she is the lead. It won't be the ram. It will be a handful of ewes. They are the queen bees. And you'll figure that out. And as a FYI, any of you have experience with heifers and cattle, you know how stupid they are? Ewe lambs are stupid too. So it's a cross species. All right, so yeah, portable. Again, all rented land. So what we used was electric net fencing from Premier One. And so an ideal setup, you can start grazing sheep. You need 7 fences of this 164 feet. So you'll have your first 4. You can make your next paddock with 3 fences. You simply open this, you're on to the next paddock. The best part about electric net fencing is you can sleep at night without worrying about it. You can pretty well train any sheep to it. The worst part about electric net fencing is moving it. It snags on everything. But with electric net fencing, because you have them contained, you can really ramp up your control and your intensity, and you know they're going to stay there. There's a guy just down the road here in Clay County. Josh Lloyd, he grazes, I don't know how many he's up to right now. He's got 800 head of sheep, and he pretty well keeps them in with 1 to 2 strand of hot wire, portable hot wire. If I was to get back into sheep, I'd probably just go buy sheep from someone like him, someone who's using that. But in saying that, I got a buddy in western Kansas who has sheep on his property, custom graze. He has nothing to do with it, but I'm talking 2,000 or 3,000 head of sheep in 2 different groups. And the outfit that's doing that, they're using electric net fencing. So a lot of it. Electric net fencing does scale, and like I said, it is really secure. Water trailer, you'll see that in one of the pictures. That's a great thing about sheep. Sheep are really efficient with water. They do not take a lot of water. Like this time of year, if you had them out on wheat or rye, they're not hardly going to drink. Portable working facilities, you'll see those. That's a game changer. You don't have to handle sheep that many times a year. It was worth every penny to have a working facility. It was not nearly. It wasn't as daunting to go and handle the sheep. Moving them every day to every couple of days. That would depend on what kind of forage they were on, the amount of forage, and then leave. Don't be afraid to waste, quote unquote, waste with grazing sheep. Like I said, you're trying to get performance out of them, so you want them to graze the best half and leave the rest. It doesn't gain you anything to graze the stock. It gains you nothing. It doesn't give you lamb weights. It doesn't gain you ewe condition, and it doesn't gain you more lambs up birthing. See, this ewe right here, this is crazy bitch. First day we got her, she tried to jump. We were trying to catch her to look at her teeth or something, and my wife is only 5'2", and she about cleared my wife jumping over her. I was like, what the hell did we get ourselves into? But she settled down after that. She was still, but she was our matriarch. She was the head queen bee. She was an excellent mother. But yeah, she kept that moniker of a CB. So yep, there's just the fence. So if any of you are familiar with the Premier One portable facilities, there's truly portable that are like on a trailer, but those were a little bit out of But if you knew you were going to be in it, you had 100 head of sheep, I'd get it with trailers, especially if you're moving all the time. This is from Lakeland. The other thing, I don't know if you can see here, this right here, this is a ramp that I got from the guy that I first bought these hair sheep from. Vital to loading sheep onto a trailer is a ramp. I really can't express the game changer that it is to try and get a sheep to jump up into a trailer versus just walking right up. The worst part about this is they're single file, and you'll have them stop, and so it takes 2 to 3 people to really get them loaded in a trailer, keep everything moving, keep ones in the trailer. But first time the lambs go through, they really don't know this, but the ewes, I could load the ewes by myself if I had one of my kids there trying to keep them in the trailer. It wasn't that big a deal. You can see the water trailer. The water trailer that I had was just an old 2-wheel axle trailer that was out in the weed row when we first started. Put air in the tires they held. Ended up having to put some new air on it, but it just had a tote on it, and this would be what we'd water out of. Wintertime, I'd haul water, but wintertime you could water probably 60 sheep with two of these tanks right here. Didn't take much to water them in the wintertime. So you'll hear some people say, oh, sheep, you can't build soil with sheep. I call BS. That's all trample. That's all litter. It's all just how you manage them. You can kind of see this is a before. This was what they were going into. This is where they were. Crabgrass is a great forage for sheep in the summertime. Crabgrass, I always say, is our wants to be our native weed and our native pasture in Kansas. I've grazed guys' wheat stubble that had crabgrass with sheep, and if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of acres, but you're trying to scale it to be somewhat commercial, beg, steal, borrow, forage. Go graze someone's weeds. Go graze. I've grazed weedy old feedlot pens. I grazed sediment basin around at the feedlot all one summer. That really sucked, but I done it. You do what you can to get by. Again, sheep management, parasites. That's the biggest complaint about sheep is parasites. Fresh paddocks. So this was what our first year of, maybe second year of grazing covers. Second year of grazing covers, it was like, oh, this is so simple, it's stupid, so successful. This is where they were. They were on this piece for like 3 days, 2 to 3 days, and then they moved into this piece. And that was, so this field was like 5 acres, and we had 60 to 90 head of sheep, lambs, and moms out there for 30 days, 35 days. So if I could have ever replicated that, I mean, you can grow, if you have the acre, if you have to have enough acres set aside that you can grow up that tonnage while you're grazing something else, you can graze pretty intensively. Yeah, live lambing rate. The last 2 years we averaged 183% live lambing rate. Our drop rate would be somewhere over 200%. But we'd have, because we were lambing out on grass, outdoors, you have a lot of multiples, you get a lot of dystocia. That's mostly what our lamb losses was they were born dead just because birth was taking too long. I never lost an ounce of sleep over it. Like I said, outdoor lambing, on green if possible. The U health, high quality feed equals healthy animals. Guard dogs, in my opinion, they're a must. We never had a problem with coyotes. We didn't shoot coyotes. We didn't worry about coyotes. But guard dogs took care of coyotes. The buzzards, the hawks, didn't train them, but there was not a hawk buzzard that was going to get within a quarter mile of the sheep. They would bark at them. So you can graze a really high quality feed with a hairy vetch here with sheep, or you can use them to manage weed growth. This was all pigweed out here, and this is what they done to it in one day. So sheep can address some resource concerns. And again, live baby lambs, these lambs would be up in under 5 minutes, up nursing, sucking on their own. Like I said, that's one of the benefits of them versus cattle. So this would be at breed up time. So I would have access to the feedlot's wastewater pivots, and we'd always have rye or triticale out there or something. You could graze it. It never was a ding on the forage in the spring though, but you can see those sheep are fat. Those sheep are in good condition. And sheep industry, what they call it flushing, a lot of times they do it with grain. If I could do it on green pasture like this in December, not a problem. But actually, the last year I done it, it was the best lambing we ever had, and our flush was on Milo stalks with a oat bale out there, and we had just as high a lambing percentage. Sheep do really well on Milo stalks actually, and we had a lot less dystocia. Our second to last year, it was a nightmare. I was not looking forward to lambing our last year. Didn't know it was going to be our last year, but I was not looking forward to it. Come on, next slide. There we go. Wintertime. This is actually in the spring, but this is them out on Milo stalks. I could graze rye if there was enough rye. I could graze them through snow. It was more the cold. If it was going to be bitter cold for an extended period of time, that was a bigger concern. And then I had access to a bale processor, so I just windrow. So you can see here, so how if I was having to feed sheep, I would basically do, so I'd make windrows with the bale processor. Sheep don't like hay. The best hay that I found for them was either oat hay or a sorghum sedan feed, whatever you want to call it, your neck of the woods. But I would bale process oat bales, so they would be in a paddock, and I'd have a fence. And I basically just creep this fence forward, move it forward like 5 feet. I wouldn't have to take down the whole fence. And we'll see later on, but it's a great way to manage the sheep. Pretty low labor requirements, and you got some incredible results at the end of it. So markets like around here, Clay Center has a market. Hutch did have a market. They're losing their market, I'm pretty sure. Sylvan Grove, I guess, is getting another market. And then I think Yates Center has a market. And then do what? Yeah, Colby. Yep, that's what I was going to say. Colby, I think, is the other marketing sheep and goat market in Kansas. Biggest problem with sheep, the sheep market is holy cow, can the market vary. We had some years where you'd get a check and I was like, hell yeah. We had one year I about threw up when I got the check because the prices were that poor. I had to, because we were using an operating note, the last year after paying for land rent, I had $4,000 to operate the whole year as far as putting seed in the ground, terminating what was there before. Yeah, $4,000 makes you really tighten down the belt and figure out what you're going to do. This was just the current market results in Pawnee, Oklahoma. I highly doubt that that's what the market value is here. I would be shocked if it was that 330 number was that was for like 42-pound lambs. That was so if you had 100 pounds total of 40 weight lambs, they'd pay you $330. So what's that? 120, 150 a head for a 40-pound lamb, something like that. I highly doubt that it's that good up here. And then that all depends: hair, wool, feed, slaughter. I did direct market a handful. We would direct market a handful of. Technically, they weren't lambs. Technically, they were hoggets because we had let them grow for a whole year and then butcher them May or June. But it was just, I worked full time, so it was never a big part of our business. So our sheep was Dorper Cross is what they ended up being. They started off as Painted Desert. I got to the point because of prices of everything. I even quit feeding mineral. I was just giving salt because I was not getting paid enough to pay for that mineral. When a cheap mineral is costing you $22 a bag, it's like, yeah, they're going to figure out how to do without it. Protein, the only normal time I'd supplement protein was super cold snap. I'd just supplement a few pounds of alfalfa pellets. Otherwise, I'd never supplemented protein. One time we bought a protein tub because I screwed up on my end. It was spring, we were dry, we didn't have a whole lot of forage. I bought him a protein tub. I thought, oh, that'll last him a couple of weeks. Yeah, that was gone like 4 days, and I was like, that ain't happening again. So the rest of that spring, I just supplemented them with like a 5-gallon bucket of corn, just because, like I said, I screwed up. That was the only time we ever really fed grain. But get rid of bad moms. If someone gets wormy, try to catch them if you can. Give them a dose of Safeguard. If they die, they die. They go back to the soil. Don't lose any sleep over it. Get rid of troublemakers. If they're getting out, get rid of them. And if we sold lambs in the fall, I know some people like to lamb in the fall. I don't want to carry. I want to carry as few mouths through winter as I possibly can. So I was always so happy to get rid of sheep in the fall, lambs in the fall, because our numbers would literally drop in half. So that's just that much less forage you got to have in front of them. We got a couple of videos here. Maybe, where'd you go? So this is out on a mostly, so this was millet, sunflower, sun hemp. So we graze this right through the frost. Millet, you can graze through the frost. Sorghum Sudan, you can't graze through the frost. But we never had any problems. And you can kind of see how sheep graze. They're constantly moving, getting to their next bite. They don't really just sit down and bite and bite and bite like cattle do. They're constantly up, down, up, down, up, down. But they're balancing their own forage. That's why multi-species forage crops are so great for them. Plus the other benefits that they have with what you're trying to accomplish in the soil. And then this is what a move looks like. And again, you can see the condition on the sheep. Um, in our system, the best sheep were going to be completely clean shedded. That's ultimately who's usually the best performers if they were completely clean shedded. If they have that rough, they call it crap, I can't think of what the technical term is for it, but that coating of wool on the back. Um, my buddy Nick Voss out in Western Kansas, they like to have some of that because of fly pressure, just where they're at. But me, our best performing sheep were generally, they slicked off completely. Um, this is one of our guard dogs, so she is a Marima of some sort. If you get a guard dog, don't waste your time getting a Pyrenees or an Anatolian. Go find something with some Marima in them. These sheep got out one night. I was out, it was late, it was twilight, and it was getting dark, and I was setting up fence for the next day, and I was clear around, and I heard dogs barking. I didn't think nothing of it. I was probably listening to my earbuds, and I come around, and there's a sheep in the fence. What the hell? Get her out of the fence, put her back in, and get to looking, and there's no sheep. I'm like, oh crap. So I had a very sleepless night because they took off. I don't know, that was the only time that it happened, but I found them 3 miles away the next morning, or someone found him, and she was with him. We had 3 dogs with him. She was the one with him. The other 2 had gone on a coon killing rampage the night before, and this was on a friend's field. And they were in his hay shed, and was driving up, and there was all these dead coons. Like, what the hell? Someone must have had fun last night. Found the dogs, and they were bloody. It's like, I figured out who had the fun last night. So, but she was with him, and she stayed with him. I couldn't touch her, and so the first time we had her, and we were doing a move, I was like, well, if she runs off, I guess whatever. She didn't run off. She stayed with the flock. So, all right. So, healthy soil. So these are soil health principles. Jay Fuhr over there, he's the one who came up with them. And I stick with the 5 soil health principles because context is not applied to soil health. Context applies to everything. Everything you should be thinking context. And after having a conversation with him, there's a reason why he didn't have context, because he went through holistic management to begin with before he ever really went down this road. So he was just thinking, context was just in his mind. So we'll go through here. I don't think they're going to be in order. So minimizing disturbance. Again, all depends on your scale. If you are just a small homestead and all you got is native pasture or brome, whatever you got, you're not going to have any disturbance. But again, if you can work with your neighbors to graze behind their wheat stubble or something, if you pay for the seed and they put the seed in for you, I think it's worth it to you and it's worth it to your neighbor. But reduce and eliminate tillage, minimize chemical use. I would use chemical to terminate what was there before I planted a cover crop. My buddy out west, Nick Voss, he uses a sweep plow. One pass, then follows it right behind with a drill. That's him. That's his context. Sweep plow works great. He can plant below that plow layer. Uh, gets by with it just fine. We can't. I abhor tillage. I hate tillage. I cannot stand tillage. What finally convinced me that tillage was worse than chemical was out tilling a piece of ground for the feedlot, and I was seeing all the dead mice and voles that I was killing, and the hawks swooping in and eating them, and I was like, this isn't right. Okay, I mean, I'm not a tree hugger by any means, but that just did not sit well with me. So I'm not saying chemicals are good. I'm just saying, in my opinion, they have a less violent impact on what's there. Again, that's just my opinion. So this was drilling just the other day into some corn stalks. Yeah, man. This was the sprayer that we used. You can see we have lots of ground cover. That's what I like to see. That was ideal conditions to seed into. There was no dust on that. This pained me to drill into this. Like, it hurt to drill into this because of I wasn't able to graze this, but the amount of insect life that was out there, rabbits, birds. Again, it's something that you got to do, but to get the next crop in, but it would have been nice if I could have established a crop without destroying all that. I mean, that was just like, so yeah, integrating livestock, sheep, cattle. You guys are going to talk chickens and pigs, bees, wildlife, damn deer, bugs. So ladybugs, earthworms, your native pollinators. Um, that was kind of my whole thing when I got into this. Was the sheep were going to be a part of uh, a grain system, essentially. They're going to use the sheep to essentially manage weeds, help convert the cover crop into available nutrients. That's my ideal system, would be having the livestock integration as part of it, and then having the grain crop to take advantage of what you're doing positively with the livestock. So that's just me. That was the ideal system, in my opinion. So we're going to see a few things. This was the field with the 5 acres, but we're going to see a sheep that she's going to die. I tried worming her, she's going to die. Okay, so you're going to see that, and you're going to see just the kind of biomass that you can grow, the diversity that's out there. Yeah, well, not her. That sheep there makes her entrance. She ain't going to make it. If you do, so when you do get sheep, I did forget to mention, there's a couple ways to manage sheep as far as like uh, lambing. You can intervene or you can't intervene. But if you're out on pasture and you don't want to have to round up everybody, you need to get savvy with one of these. Uh, you can do it if you have the right sheep. There is a method to hooking a sheep. I mean, it does work. When I would have to catch one to get wormy, usually you had to wait till they were weak enough that you could actually catch them. But again, a crappy looking sheep like that, they're not worth nothing anyways. I mean, there's no point in taking them to the sale barn. So, like I said, animal welfare, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Lock them up and try and force feed them and put condition back on them? Because odds are you're probably not going to. Animals die. The good thing about sheep versus cattle is it doesn't hurt as bad when a ewe dies as a cow. So, where's my clicker? Can't see. Oh, now you pop up. Yeah. Go to the next one. There we go. Again, this is the same. This was the paddock that they got out on. So same paddock, just post frost, pre frost. Okay, next. Just showing you again the forage quality, the animal integration. That's a pretty sight to see. I don't know how many lambs that was, but that was a trailer full of lambs. We handled sheep for a few purposes. To move them to the next place, we'd work the lambs, so we would do a shot of CDT, we'd castrate the boys, and we would do a shot of uh, selenium and vitamin E. Because I kept on I'd get like one animal a year, one male a year in the fall, which show up with selenium deficiency. So it was a cheap insurance to just give them a shot of selenium and vitamin E. They'd come out of it, but I'd have to give them fish oil pills and 2 shots of vitamin E for a week. But other than that, again, though, working facility is great. Again, you can see CB, multiple lambs. Again, that's the name of the game, is multiple lambs. It's doubling your lambs. Okay, next. I did graze some cattle, so this was failed milo crop. Companion plant of milo. It was getting weedy. It was dry. I was like, screw it, we'll graze it. The one benefit of cattle I will say over sheep, or the biggest benefit, is the fencing thing. So you can run. So this was, I don't even know, 20 acres maybe. It wasn't even 20 acres. But so you have your 2 perimeter, single strand hot wire perimeter fences. Ran one right down the middle, and then just use temporary fence. And just go along. I grazed, I don't know, 30 something head for 45 days on like 15 acres. They averaged 1.8, 2 pounds a day. That's pretty darn good for that short a turnaround time. And to move them from this side to this side, we didn't use a gate. Just put a post in, PVC pipe, and just lifted that wire up. Got that from a guy that's since passed, Neil Dennison from Canada. If you've watched the Carbon Cowboys, he's on that. That was someone who would have been nice if we could have kept him around a little while longer. So yeah, diversity. Hairy vetch. I love hairy vetch. Hairy vetch is probably top 5 of my favorite species. Some certain universities will tell you you can't graze hairy vetch. They can go pound sand as far as I'm concerned. Grasses, I really like oats. It's just oats don't always fit into our environment because they are spring planted. If we had a winter oat really hardy, that'd be the cat's meow. But oats really have a hard time. And I mean, I like oats. They do well in our area. It's just that if you plant them here in March, you're not going to be able to graze them till May, basically. So you got to have something to carry them between that. Sun hemp is another one I really like. Mustard does really well in our area here. Okra does really good in the as an alternate to sunflowers. A little pricey, but they do like it, and it does really great for the soil. So just some pictures of the diversity. Here's some insect diversity. Next. This is Phacelia. Really expensive, but a little bit, and it'll show up. And it's not so much for the forage, it's for the soil benefit. This is mustard right there. You're good. You can go to the next one. And then this is just some different seed mixes, so you can see the different diversity. This probably, I'm trying to think, this might have been my companion plant at Milo. Armor. So yeah, crop residue, green living plant, or mulch. So like like I said, when I'm doing the winter feeding. And the best part about sheep is they're pelletized dry spreaders. So this is a video. Maybe. There we go. So this was one of my favorite parts about sheep was being out every evening and just getting to sit and listen. That was one of the best parts. This was a phenomenal year. I don't know how much it was. It was probably maybe 4 pounds of hairy vetch. It wasn't a lot of hairy vetch. One thing I will tell you about seeding rates: don't overdo it. As far as seeding rate or spending money, don't overdo it. You got to make money at this. Sometimes you got to simplify mixes or you lower your seed rates. But I'm going to pan around and you're going to see where they were. So that's what they went into, and you can see how much I left behind. Now, conventional wisdom would say, "Oh, you wasted a lot of forage. There's nothing there. There's nothing there that I want. All they're going to do is pick up parasites, and then leave the soil bare." Oh, you're gonna have to. There we go. One of the criticisms of sheep versus cattle is, "Oh, sheep don't have trample." Again, you put them in the right area. This is crabgrass, quackgrass, foxtail. I mean, all sorts of crap. This was so my thinking was with this, I'd let the rye just keep going and make seed, and then I'd have volunteer, and I'd have basically a volunteer stand of rye, and then but we had a crabgrass weeds growing underneath, done fine on it. Again, winter, so this is the windrows, and then this would be grazing a froze out crabgrass. Again, you can kind of push them on nutrition ahead of breeding. So if you're really going to manage them, you'd almost drop their nutrition off for about two weeks to a month before you're going to flush them, and then you're going to start them back up on high nutrition 2 weeks before you turn the rams in. If you're going to be really intensive, I was never necessarily that intensive about it. Living root as many days as possible. This is not always the easiest. And sometimes it's not necessarily desired. Like this fall, I did not drill a cover crop with what I'm doing this fall because we didn't have moisture till end of October, 1st of November. Quit raining, finally quit raining. We finally sprouted the winter annuals. It was like, well, I'd really like to finally get on top of these just once. So it's going to be middle of November before we could even get the sprayer out there to get them sprayed. And then by the time you get the drill out there, it's probably going to be last week of November. And I didn't want to risk a hairy vetch not overwintering. Maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have. I don't know. But it got it drilled the other day. So this was worm castings. So these two photos are the same place. I found these worm castings on top, and they had pulled the manure pellets and were breaking them apart into the soil. This would have been, I cannot tell you what this species is, but you can see the nodules on here. It's not that hard to get stuff to nodulate if you're not using a lot of commercial fertilizer. So this would have been in spots of where we were doing the winter feeding. And I could go literally to where we didn't have the residue. It was dry, didn't have the amount of earthworms, but you can really improve the earthworm, your soil biology really quick when you start adding a lot of carbon. So yeah, resources. Again, I said I'm a YouTube junkie. Podcast. I always got my earbuds in. So what honestly kind of convinced me to do the sheep thing. It's gonna sound stupid, but if you go on YouTube, you can find Lambing Live from the BBC over in the UK. They've done a couple seasons of it. You can glean a lot from that if you are not familiar with sheep, as far as a lot of kind of just the general principles of taking care of sheep. Another one that's really focused on sheep is The Sheep Game. He's another guy over in the UK. I was born in the wrong country for sheep. So that's Nick Voss. So he's the one to blame for it all. And then this is Jay when he was down here a couple years ago. So yeah, conferences and organizations. So this is more for the soil health part of it. Go to conferences, go to these different meetings. Almost all these have stuff on YouTube or podcasts somewhere. So yeah, sheep can be a great fit to any operation. In my opinion, sheep actually would be a better fit for most smaller enterprises in this area than cattle, because if you have 40 head of cattle, well, instead of 40 head of cattle and trying to make that pencil with as far as the infrastructure, you could probably have 200 head of sheep. And all of a sudden, that mobile working facility that's really expensive doesn't look so expensive, because you're depreciating it out over 200 head of ewes, 500 head of lambs. That looks a whole lot better than 40 head of cows, 40 head of calves. It does take time, so if you want to do a good job, you can't just let them go. I mean, and again, they fit with the soil health system. Soil health can fit into any operation. And sheep people, I've spent my whole life in the cattle industry. Not that there's not some absolutely great people in the cattle industry, but there are also some absolute jackasses in the cattle industry, plain and simple. I'm not saying they're not out there, but sheep people are like, oh my gosh, you want to do sheep? What can I do to help you? I mean, because they're a rare breed, like that ramp. I got that given to me by an old guy. He's like, well, I ain't got no use for it. You might as well take it. So when I got rid of all my stuff, I gave it to the guy that bought my working facility, because, like I said, that's just kind of what my experience has been with sheep people. And people in the soil health world are the same way. So you can find us. I don't post a lot on Facebook as much as I used to. I do post on YouTube, though. I have a YouTube channel, and it's gone more to I have conversations with people more than I am putting up content about what we're doing on the farm. If you go to the next slide, we got one more slide. I really did enjoy my sheep. You got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy them, don't bother. But they were, I mean, again, night like this, just sit. Wind wasn't blowing like a bat out of hell, so it was enjoyable. It was a nice fall evening, a full moon coming up, and it was just, yeah. She was a bottle baby. She was always, yeah, she was a kind of a pain in the butt. Bottle babies are a pain in the butt from the time they're bottle baby to when they get older. So, but yeah, so went over time. So, but we're good. So we're gonna save questions for later. Okay, yeah.